Hello everybody, it's Pineapple here, back with another video. And so today I just wanted to give my Labyrinth deck profile, the lowdown, the more intricate like deck building philosophies that go into this deck, and my build specifically. So to start off, I want to say that this is a build that is intended to turn one, loop a card out of your opponent's hand. That's the main goal, and it's doing everything it can to possibly find that. It's why we're on Ariana, as well as Prosby, and Temple of the Kings. Specifically, we want to find Ariana as much as possible, as well as Temple of the Kings, as well as special summon on our own turn, which is why we are not playing Pot of Duality. Additionally, we don't want to draw two copies of a pot, so we're not playing Extrath. But first up, we have Triple Lady. If you're unfamiliar, she lets you set trap cards directly from your deck, meaning that you can set normal traps from your deck that are really powerful, such as D-Barrier, and EEV, etc., etc. You know, this card is extremely powerful, and she does everything that the archetype wants and needs. She also is a huge body. She has 3,000 attack, and if you control a set card, your opponent can't target her with card effects, and she can't be destroyed by card effects, which is just really annoying. And, you're probably going to have a set card, like, 90 to 95% of the time. So a big 3K beater who's pretty much a tower outside of, an IDP, non-targeting banish, is a pretty obnoxious thing to have. Additionally, she special summons herself from your hand if you activate a Labyrinth card, or if a normal trap is activated this turn. So effectively, once you've activated a normal trap or a Labyrinth card, you can just special her from your hand at any point in the turn as a quick effect, which is fantastic. It's really, really good. We're on one copy of Lovely. She's a brick, and she's very, 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 very frustrating to draw. But in order to hand loop our opponent, we have to play her. She has no way to get herself out of the hand, but your opponent can't respond to your trap effects with monster effects while she's on the field, which is really good. It means that you're insulated from things like Ash Blossom and the like, as well as negates from monster effects. She just insulates you completely. Additionally, she can target a normal trap in your grave and reset it to your field, which is, it's pretty good, especially for looping things like D-Barrier. Additionally, she's fantastic because when a monster leaves the field by a normal trap effect, she gets to pop a card in your opponent's hand or field. This is really, really, really good. Note that it doesn't matter which monster, which field it's from, so you can use Big Welcome to return something like an Ariana to hand to trigger her, as well as to trigger your welcomes to reset themselves. But we'll get into that later. We are on 3 copies of Prosperity because, again, we need to see Temple of the Kings in order to really unlock the full ceiling of this deck. We are, of course, on Triple Temple of the Kings. If you're unfamiliar, it lets you activate a trap card the turn it was set. Every other word on this card doesn't matter. It's a continuous spell. Oh, it's fantastic. We love this card. It raises the ceiling of the deck so much. It is a continuous cuckoo clock. And if you'll notice, we are not playing clock. And the reason for that is we need to not be drawing any bricks. Bricks are dead. They're really, really, really bad for us. And the amount of times where I have drawn clock and I have drawn temple is too much, and I've cut clock. I get that it's searchable temple. Frankly, I don't care. The amount of times where it has come up to the extent that it saves my butt is maybe 1 in 100 games. And the amount of times where it has screwed me over is about 1 in every, 3. Moving on, we're on 1 copy of the field spell. I've debated cutting this, but it's incredibly good when you do get to resolve it, especially when you're not having to search clock. When you've cut clock, it gets a lot better, I feel, in my personal opinion. So the way it works is at point of resolution, when you activate a Labyrinth trap, you get to pop a card on the field, which is unbelievably powerful, because since it is an at point of resolution effect and a bonus effect, your opponent generally doesn't know it's coming, and it's a pretty big shock value. You combo that with Welcome to summon Lovely, and you have a free 2 pops. So, moving on to our traps, there's a lot of them. First up, we have Welcome. It lets you special a Labyrinth monster from your deck, and then it locks you into Fiends from the deck and extra deck. Note that that does not turn off IDP, thankfully. But, except the turn it was sent to the graveyard, if a monster leaves the field by your normal trap effect, you get to reset it, which is really, really good. So you can use things like Big Welcome to reset it, all of your normal removals cards, just turn this thing right back around. You reset it. It's important for your resource loops. Additionally, its trigger effect to reset itself is probably the thing that when you start playing this deck, you will forget the most. And that really sucks. I'll level with everyone. It sucks to forget Welcome. You will lose out on a lot of advantage from looping this card to reset itself. Big Welcome. This is the card that enables us to loop cards out of our opponent's hand. Simply because the way it works is you special a Labyrinth monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard, meaning that if you draw Lovely, you can get her out of your hand without the field spell. And then you return a monster you control to your hand. This is really good because you can get out Lovely, and then you can return something else to your hand, which will subsequently trigger Lovely. So, for example, if we draw Ariana and Temple, we can use Ariana to search Big Welcome, and then use Temple to flip Big Welcome on our turn, and then return the Ariana to hand, and then loop a card with Lovely. Additionally, Lovely can then reset Big Welcome, which is a pretty hilarious combo. Additionally, while Big Welcome is in the grave, you can banish it from the grave, target a fiend you control, or if you control a level 8 or higher fiend, you can target a card your opponent controls instead, and then return that targeted card to the hand, which is really powerful. It's also really useful because sometimes you want to reset Welcome with this by returning something like Ariana to hand, and then you can search another copy of Big Welcome by normaling Ariana. That's a play that has come up quite a few times for me, and it is just really good for resource generation. Big Welcome's a crazy, crazy custom card. We're on 2 copies of Compulse. It's non-targeting. Not non-target. It's a non-destruction removal. Additionally, shuffling something back into the extra is just so powerful. Compulse is great. It's Compulse. I don't really have a lot to say about it. We're on 1 copy of D-Barrier because we want to be searching it off of Lady, and hard drawing it is great, but you know, if you hard draw 2, it kind of sucks. So it's much more about searching this card rather than just instantly, how should I put this, just hard drawing it and winning the game and sacking our opponent. Following up, we have Punishment. We're on 1 copy of Punishment. I'm not running a smoke screen. I think running a smoke screen is pretty crappy unless you're running like Sword Soul. But like Kashtira is just gonna lock your back row anyways, unless you're like they think that like you're on a monster only deck, like I don't know, Adamantipator. I don't think it's worth playing a smoke screen, so we're just playing Punishment anyways. We're then on 1 copy of IDP. IDP being a hard once per turn and additionally being pretty situational is very frustrating. And subsequently, I only have it at 1 for the corner cases where I need it. I've debated that a lot, and I really think you only need 1 IDP. We then have 3 copies of Imperm. Imperm's great because it turns on our Lady in hand turn 0, which is kind of really, really good. It's also just, you know, turn 0 interruption, probably the most generic and best turn 0 interruption, in my opinion, that you can play in the main at least. We then have Terrors of the Overroot. It says you target a card your opponent controls and a card in their graveyard, and then send the card on the field to the grave and set that card in the graveyard to their field. It is a hard one, but it's a really interesting form of removal, specifically, again, something like Kashtira, because you can just send whatever they special, set something else to their field, and then they can't special summon anymore. And they lose access to it. So like if they special Unicorn and they ash you on your turn, you can then just set the Ash Blossom to their field, and then they are kind of screwed, which is really great. We have 1 copy of Waybridge. Waybridge says if your opponent controls 2 or more monsters than you do, they have to send monsters they control until they only control 1, which is really, really, really good. Additionally, the most valuable part of this is just like you want to grab this. It comes up in corner cases. It's a little funky, but I think it's worth playing in the main, specifically because you're probably only going to have 2 monsters max on the field, maybe 3. But it's just a solid removal option to just board wipe on their turn. We then have 3 copies of Evenly Matched. We want options going second, and Evenly is probably the best to do that. Additionally, again, it turns on Lady in hand, and specifically, you are, I think, physically incapable of OTKing on the crackback turn, not on the crackback, turn 2, and so subsequently you don't lose anything by giving up your battle phase. Evenly is just a great board breaker in this deck. We're then on Gozen. We're only playing darks, as you can tell, so we're not at risk of locking ourselves under anything. Additionally, a lot of decks die to Gozen. Just an unbelievable amount of decks get absolutely obliterated by Gozen. You have Sprite. They either get locked into dark, you can lock them into fire, etc., etc. You can lock them into a whole bunch of different things. Um, we also have Kashtira, which gets destroyed by Gozen. Sword Soul gets destroyed by Gozen. There are so many decks that just get absolutely obliterated by this card. And you don't, so play it. Again, it does turn off IDP a lot of the time, but, sacrifices have to be made. It's Gozen. I would argue it's probably the best one. I don't like Skill Drain, but I am playing it in the side. But I really don't like Skill Drain in this deck, and I'll explain why later. But moving on, we have 3 copies of Judgment. It's Judgment. Your opponent's probably maining some sort of board breaker like Duster or Talents, specifically Thrust, to get to something like Duster and Evenly, something that's just going to absolutely obliterate you. And Judgment just says don't let them do that. You don't want to get absolutely Evenly for your life savings or Dustered for your life savings game 1. That can be really, really bad. It's also just a fantastic card. Judgmenting a important summon is just so critical. In the extra, we have Exterio. It's one of our 2 targets for Waking the Dragon, which we can side in going first, because Waking the Dragon is very funny, and we can chain some lady to something like a Duster, and then set Waking the Dragon in order to force our opponent to activate it, so that we can still get some value even through a Duster. We then have 2 copies of Garura Wings of Residence. This is specifically as a punishment target to draw more cards, generate advantage, etc., etc. Same thing with Entis. Pop a card, extra pops. This card's really critical. Dog punishment is like the most important thing ever in order to even have a chance to beat Trap Tricks, which is a terrible matchup because they have Grave Diggers, they have just all these super annoying cards, and all their monsters are unaffected by trap cards, and they're untargetable. It's just a bad matchup. You really need to draw evenly for that, but regardless. We then have Evil Longwan as our other target for Waking the Dragon. This is because time rules. It's a great time rules target. You can just burn them for 2,400 in time, and there's a very solid chance you can just win. It's fantastic. Omega. This is another punishment target. Sometimes you want to put things back that get, banished. Omega's great for that. 2 copies of Zeus. It's Zeus. We don't want to lose him. 1 DD Wave King Caesars. He's a rank 4 fiend who can rank up into Machinex to make a pretty fat Zeus. We're on 1 copy of Bucephalus as our big boy target for punishment. Additionally, he will bin Garura once he's been sent to the grave. So you can draw a card for your big punishment target. We're on 1 copy of Goddess because sometimes people want to cheese you. Don't let them. Goddess is great she is the anti-cheese white woman. Use her well. 2 copies of Muckraker of the Underworld. This is how we out Denko Seka, and things like Jinzo. You want to be normaling Ariana in order to get to Lady, in order to link for this, in order to revive Lady in attack position. That's how you out Denko Seka. It's how you out Jinzo. The deck will crumple without those options, but you gotta do it, and we'll do anything to keep it. So we don't want it to get ripped by something like Unicorn or Diablosis. So we're playing 2. In the side, we're on 3 copies of Nibiru. This card rolls Gashtira. It rolls a lot of things. It's Nibiru. It's just a great card. Unfortunately, it kind of hurts us with Gozen, but, since we're probably playing this going second, you're not going to get absolutely obliterated because you can just, choose not to flip Gozen. We then have 3 copies of Lord for going first. Specifically, you can just side out evenly, put Lord in. Lord feels kind of bad to draw 2 of, but it's just such a powerful card to protect against board breakers outside of evenly, but we have Judgment for evenly, so who really cares? We have 2 copies of Lava Golem because Trap Tricks is really annoying to out. Some people make towers type monsters. It's a good going second card. It's Golem. Duster. Trap Tricks is everywhere. It's a $30 deck. This card reads wipe their board. I just feel like that playing 1 copy of Duster in the side, specifically for like a mirror or other things, is just so valuable. 1 copy of EEV, again, another thing to out trap matchups. It's really, really powerful in the trap matchup. Call Trap, call Spell. It's EEV. It will just win you games. But I can't justify playing it in the main because sometimes, you don't have the necessary components to make it function. You really want to be searching it off Lady, but, you want it to be triggering pretty much instantly, and this version doesn't really make the full use of that. We then have one copy of Big Bang. If you haven't read this card, it says if a Kashtira XYZ monster on the field is on the field and a player controls two or more monsters, first they must banish monsters they control face down, so they only control one. So basically, you can force your opponent to evenly themselves if they're on Kashtira, which is really, really, really funny. We then have one copy of Secret Barrel. Time rules are a bitch. Don't lose to them. It's Secret Barrel for that reason. One copy of Waking the Dragon. In the event that we get dustered or stormed for our life savings, we can chain Trap card, chain Lady, set Waking. Two copies of Skill Drain. I don't like Skill Drain. It turns Lady into this just unprotected big number. And I really don't like that. I don't like Drain. I get that it's Skill Drain, but it's just... I don't think it's that great. I've seen a lot of lists playing it, but I honestly am contemplating playing Summon Limit instead. But for the moment, we're playing Drain. So with that, let's discuss some matchups. You roll pretty much anything that relies on one summon mechanic, Sword Soul, Branded. But you know, your weakest matchups can be Kashtira because they can just blank your back row, which really sucks. Kashtira can just create non-games, which is inherently frustrating. But again, you know, that's part of playing a back row deck. You're going to lose to people drawing Duster sometimes. That's just how it is. But again, we do everything we can to prevent that. That's why we're playing Judgment in the main. But Trap Tricks is probably one of, if not your worst matchups in this metagame, in my opinion at least. The fact that they are often unaffected by trap cards, they're often untargetable, your removal cards are all trap cards, is just so immensely frustrating. It is such an unfun deck to play against. But, you know, you're going to have your bad matchups. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe. And I will be back with more probably tomorrow.